Hello and welcome to Energy Frontiers, proudly brought to you with support from the African Energy Chamber. I am Justina Okechukwu. Let's take off with a few headlines of energy quick takes from here in Africa and around the world. Africa's largest renewable energy developer, Infinity Power, and UAE-based Mazda, along with Egyptian company Hazam Alam Utilities, have signed an agreement to build a 10 gigawatts capacity onshore wind farm in Egypt. The project is designed to be one of the largest in the world, with a project value of over $10 billion. British independent energy company Sudan Energy plc has announced a total revenue growth of 26% to $290 million for the year 2022, and an adjusted earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization of $222 million in the period under review. For the current year 2023, Savannah Energy says it plans to close a proposed acquisition of Petronas assets in South Sudan in the third quarter, complete a hydrocarbon asset deal, reach its target of having up to 1 gigawatt plus of renewable energy projects, and refinance its $359 million Akugas debt facilities. Noble Helium, listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, has raised $13.5 million Australian dollars to drill its first helium exploration well and purchase long lead items for the second exploration well at its North Rukwa helium project in Tanzania in the third quarter of this year. Global energy giant Eni has signed a memorandum of understanding with Libya to study and identify opportunities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and develop sustainable energy in the North African country. A new report by the International Energy Agency, the International Renewable Energy Agency, the United Nations Statistics Division, the World Bank, and the World Health Organization has found that the world is not on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 7 for energy by the year 2030. And that was a snapshot of your energy news headlines. When we return, relief for South African households and motorists as the government slashes the price of fuel at the pumps. Details after the break. This is Energy Frontiers. Now, South African households and motorists were relieved this week as the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy announced a review of fuel prices. The price of petrol saw a drop of 71 cents per litre, diesel fell by 80 cents, while illuminating paraffin went down by 46 cents a litre. According to the ministry, the reasons for the fuel price adjustment include the decline in crude oil prices and international petroleum product prices, as well as a depreciating rand against the US dollar, among other factors. In this interview chat, Chris Hart, the executive chairman of Impact Investment Africa based in Johannesburg, tells me more. Now, so what will the latest fuel prices review mean for the South African economy?
Well, I think firstly, we need to understand that the fuel prices are adjusted every single month. And the reduction in the international crude prices has helped enormously to actually enable this drop in the fuel prices that occurred yesterday. At the end of the day, the average South African has really been really struggling under the combination of very high fuel prices, which have really damaged household spending, and the increase in interest rates, which has been very rapid and very quick and very steep. The extensive interest rate hikes and the high fuel prices have really knocked consumers back. We can see this in the economy. The GDP is not growing. And so the actual reduction in the fuel price now will give some relief. If the rand had not weakened, that fuel price decrease would have been significantly more. So what happened in the previous month, the rand weakened, but the international crude oil prices came down. the crude oil prices came down more than what the rand weakened, and so we're getting these price cuts. If the rand continues to weaken, right, and the fuel prices rebound, the international crude prices rebound, we may well see a bigger increase in future months. The currency is really looking it's struggling at the moment for the simple reason is that the economy is not growing. The debt levels are very high, so people are worried about the actual investability. There's policies coming down the line which are not very investor friendly, and on the diplomatic side, South Africa has been accused of helping to deliver weapons to the Russians, and that's also further increasing investor aversion to South Africa. We're on the grey list, so there's a whole heap of factors that South Africa needs to start doing to attract investment, to help stabilize the rand and get economic growth going again.
Right. Now, will this review cushion the impact of the rolling load shedding for South African households?
Not really. I think the only thing it could do is enable Eskom to afford a little bit more diesel and just reduce the load shedding from that point of view. But the actual effect largely is marginal it's really something at the edges rather than something that will affect load shedding in the actual substance. At the end of the day, the lack of performance of the actual existing power stations is going to be the most important factor in alleviating load shedding. And with our winter on, that's now come on, and it's a cold winter so far. It's the pressure on the power utilities resources is going to really stretch South Africa's, South Africa's power grid, and to a large extent the patience of the average consumer in South Africa.
Away from South Africa, the International Energy Agency held the 8th edition of its Global Conference on Energy Efficiency in the week just ended. The summit was attended by more than 700 participants from over 80 countries, including over 30 ministers and 50 CEOs. Among the high-level delegates at the 3-day event was Kenya's Cabinet Secretary of Energy and Petroleum, David Chirchir. The minister spoke about what the East African country is doing to achieve energy efficiency. Take a listen.
This year, amount of investments going to solar is higher than amount of investment in going to oil production. This is, in my view, something tells a lot for all of us to consider. Now, what about energy efficiency in this whole context? And we also see that this emergence of new clean energy system, energy efficiency is also coming very strongly. In the last 1.5 years, many countries around the world, covering 70% of the global economy, came up with new, most cases binding policies for energy efficiency. Some of them for buildings, some of them for transportation, and some of them for industry. This is very encouraging. And last year, global energy efficiency improvement was 2 times higher than the historical averages, which makes us again very happy. But, dear colleagues, despite this, some good news that the emergence of the clean energy system, we see that we are still far from reaching our climate and energy targets. Still a lot of room to go. But definitely we are on the right track.
Let me say, in recent times, Kenya, like the rest of the world, experienced challenges on energy provisions brought about by effects of COVID-19 and the challenging global situations that we see today in Europe because of the challenges of Russia, Ukraine. And in order to enhance resilience and sustainability of the energy sector, Kenya has put in place necessary policies and other administrative interventions. We have reinforced our resolve to develop renewable energy going forward, and we have a goal to reach 100% clean energy in our generation mix by the year 2030, which is just some 7 years to go. To achieve this, we have undertaken a robust review of our power planning, focusing additional generation to come from geothermal. We are very strong in geothermal. Our grid is 45% geothermal today. Coming from wind, we have one of the biggest wind farms in Africa, generating from one location 310 megawatts. Solar and hydro, which is our mainstay as a country that did not develop our energy mix on the fundamentals of fossil fuels. Kenya, on the other hand, has abundance of renewable energy with potentials of geothermal of up to 110,000 megawatts and a huge potential of wind and solar resources. It helps that we are enhancing our connectivity rates, aiming to reach universal access by 2030, both grid and off-grid. And further, the government has a focus in growing manufacturing as well as value addition in agriculture. In tandem, we seek to enhance our energy efficiency measures, and this will increase the affordability of energy as we increase its sustainability utilization. Our act that has come out with a regulation that targets that any commercial institution or facilities that consume more than 180 kilowatts of power per annum do subscribe to, conduct audit every 3 years, and file the results with the energy regulatory body, implement energy saving mechanisms to achieve at least 50% of the recommended energy savings. One other initiative that has been built into the legislative framework through regulation is appliances, energy performance and labeling regulations, which provide for testing of appliances for energy performance, registering them with the regulator, and affixing appliances with appropriate energy labels to confirm the audit. Given the above enabling environment, Kenya will place to achieve its clean energy goals, having already reached 92% energy mix. Our geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar today on our energy mix. In fact, when I checked my numbers for the last 3 days, we are at 95%. Energy efficiency has become an integral part of our country integrated national energy plan. And furthermore, the Kenya National Energy Efficiency Strategy is highly comprehensive and has established Kenya as a regional leader in energy efficiency policy. Finally, and in recognition of the strides Kenya has made in the deployment of renewable energy and energy efficiency, and on account of our support, of much support and partnership created, we offer to host the next Global Energy Efficiency Forum 2024 in Nairobi.
Coming next, oil-rich South Sudan is set to host one of Africa's premier oil and power conference despite ongoing war across its border to the north. More on this in just a moment.
Imagine a future where tomorrow's solutions build a world of opportunities for all, and where human potential is truly realized, where every child has an equal chance in life, no matter where they were born. Imagine the potential of a continent built on low-carbon oil and natural gas and abundant renewable energy. Imagine Mozambique, Angola, Nigeria, Uganda, Senegal, Egypt, Namibia, and Algeria being let free to develop their natural resources without pressure from wealthy countries to leave it in the ground. Imagine an Africa where we cut red tape bureaucracy and provide better fiscal terms so we can compete globally for energy investments. African Energy Week is the African Energy Chamber's annual event held at the Cape Town waterfront, uniting African energy leaders, global investors, and executives from across the public and private sector for 4 days of intense dialogue on the future of the African energy industry. Showcasing the latest technologies and innovations to 5,000 plus registered delegates from over 100 countries and international professionals from across the global energy sector. Be part of the future of the energy industry and join the energy movement by becoming an official sponsor, exhibitor, delegate, or partner. African Energy Week.
Welcome back to the program. Now, South Sudan is looking to position itself as the rallying point for East Africa's energy cooperation as the country seeks on abundant energy resources from hydrocarbon to renewable. So the South Sudan Oil and Power 2023 conference starting June the 14th in Juba, the capital city, has been designed to further highlight the potentials of the Sahel economy. This was my conversation with James Chester, the International Conference Director at Energy Capital and Power, the lead organizer of the next week's event. Now, tell me about specific areas of the South Sudan energy industry that the ECP Summit intends to focus on.
Absolutely. South Sudan, we think, is really one of the most interesting destinations that investors could be looking at in Africa. It is something of a frontier destination in many people's perception. However, we would want to point out to people that this is a legacy producer. This is by far the biggest producer in East Africa and a leading producer in Central Africa, if you expand that region and take Central Africa as well. South Sudan has a lot to offer, and it has a lot to offer to its neighbors as well as to investors coming in. And the energy industry has a lot to offer to its own people and to make the country's economy really, really grow. So the conference this year is based on the theme Engine of East African Growth. And by that, what we want to put across is that South Sudan's fortunes are interwoven with those of the region. Its economy is interwoven with the economies of the region around it. You've got 500 million people in the countries surrounding South Sudan. All of those need energy. And so this is a really critical player. That opportunity is going to be unpacked at the conference and discussed in much greater depth.
Now, give me an overview of the South Sudan petroleum sector and why the country is seen as an engine for East Africa's growth.
Well, South Sudan, as you know, in 2011, when the country became independent, it inherited certain structures from Sudan, the country that it broke away from. But now South Sudan has its own thriving domestic oil and gas industry. So that is structured around investments from international Asian national oil companies, ONGC, CNPC, and Petronas. They are working together with NilePet, which is the national oil company, which has really kind of built capacity over the years. And that's done through 3 joint ventures. But all around that, there's an ecosystem of many smaller petroleum companies, local companies. And in the 6 years that we've been in the market, we've really seen those local companies rise up and take over certain parts of the petroleum industry. So that's the landscape in Juba. And we've been really excited to see how much capacity has been built locally and how much talent there is in South Sudan and how much entrepreneurship is now coming through. No doubt it's a difficult environment to work in, but in those difficult environments, sometimes you find incredible opportunities to take advantage of.
And finally, The African Energy Chamber has unveiled a new initiative, an annual energy scholarship award known as the AEC African Energy Education Fund. The fund is aimed at supporting young individuals across Africa who are pursuing undergraduate studies in oil, gas, and energy-related fields. Successful winners stand to receive financial support ranging from $5,000 to $10,000 and an opportunity to attend and actively participate in the Youth Forum at the African Energy Week 2023, scheduled to hold in Cape Town, South Africa from 16th to the 20th of October. Please visit the AEC website on www.energychamber.org for more information about the application process. And that's a wrap on the show for you this week, and we thank you for watching. Remember to follow the program on Frontier Africa Reports website, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us across all our social media handles as indicated on the screen. It's goodbye from me, Justina Okechukwu. I'll see you soon.